Hi, welcome to this video, DCS video. I've picked the game up again because there's a few interesting things happening in the DCS updates recently. It's November 2022, and I'd put it down for a while, but I've loaded it back up again because there's updates out and updates coming. The most recent one is some new missions that World War II specific missions actually, which have been released by the DCS team that I'm quite keen to check out, including bomber intercept, scrambling, fighter support, and so on for a range of the World War II aircraft, including the Bf109, which is the plane that I almost exclusively fly at the moment. I really should try some of the others, but I like the 109. So I picked it up, and also coming out, I think by the end of the year, is a whole new map, whole new updated Normandy map, which encompasses a greater part of the geography of southeast England and France, including the capitals, Paris and London. So, and that looks really very good. So that one hasn't landed yet, but when it does, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get back into DCS a little bit more. So what I thought I'd just do is give a bit of a test run here just to make sure that everything's working okay, and even try recording in VR. So depending on what the replay looks like, this may not even make it to YouTube because it might just be way too vomit-inducing. But if not, then I'll upload it anyway, and for the small proportion out there who can watch YouTube videos of VR play, then you may enjoy it. For the rest of us, including myself, I can't watch them. You'll either never see it, or because I never upload it, or you won't be able to get past a few minutes. You're probably even getting sick now just with me looking at the mission editor map. So what are we doing? What's this particular video about? Well, I've got focusing here on Abbeville Drucat, or Drucar, however one is supposed to say it, not being French. And I've got nothing established on this map really. I've set the basic sides to Axis and Allies as per World War II alignments, but there's nothing on this map. There's only the 109, the player 109, designated here, Bf109 K4. Now I've set I can never quite remember exactly which one I need to do for this one, but I've set the radio channels to 38.65, which is, if we click on here, 38.65 is the frequency there. So I normally set that to that. I can't remember which one if I do. Anyway, nevertheless, if the radio doesn't work, there's no big issue. So got my custom, well not custom, but one of the downloaded paint schemes. This one's a Bf109 K4 Hans Joachim Marseille, or Marseille. I don't know how that would have been pronounced. I'm going to go with Marseille. It's a classic looking yellow-nosed 109 paint job. So that's pretty straightforward. Full fuel, combat mix. I'm not going to be really doing any combat. This is really just a reacclimatization flight. Weather today is selected as broken clouds 2. No wind. Like I say, this is just to get up in the air and down again, go through the systems, get a bit of a flight in and familiarization. This will also be a little bit of a for those who are interested in the how I start up and shut down the 109. I'm going to go from a cold start, so that'll be everything. I've reset the day. I always forget to do this. I don't know if others do, but whenever you load this as a default, it's like 2020 something or 2010. It's like in the modern era, and so all the trains are modern trains. So you have to manually reset this to era specific. So 1942. That way you'll get the steam trains. If you don't reset that to the World War II era, you get electric trains and diesel trains or what have you. So it's nice to have the steam trains. So, and I've just set a pretty basic waypoint, Abbeville. Then second one is Saint Valery sur Somme over here. So I'm going to follow this canal as my landmark. And then I'm going to shift to a sort of like east-northeasterly direction up here across this large forest and hopefully see, what's that? Cressy en Pontio. Yep. And then come back down to like a south-southwest direction back to Abbeville Ducat and land, hopefully, not crash. So let's get going. Just save it again. Oh, so I got nothing else at the airfield. I'm starting off from runway number 2. If you're interested in how to set different runways, you see they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And you can set yourself to start on different runways over here. So if I selected 3, I would start on 3. I'm going to start with 2. That puts me there. Okay, I'll save that again. Okay, click over here, fly mission. Now, hopefully this is all going okay, blah, blah, blah. Nothing really particularly of interest there. Now let's hit start. Then we go into the loading screen. It should go pretty quick because I have actually already taken off and landed already today, just to make sure that I could remember my various controls. Now I have set up a custom voice attack command system, very basic, and it just basically enables me to start up get the on the starter and so on and so forth, without having to fumble around because I'm doing this in VR. So as much as I can do without having to look down and click buttons, the better. So 8 o'clock, that was just the default start time, which is okay, blah, blah, etc. and so forth. No threats, no friendlies, 0 meters per second. Everything is entry level. Now we click fly. Okay, so we're in the cockpit now. And I'm just going to try something. Oh, yeah. I've just discovered or rediscovered, however you want to call it, the recenter VR button, which is my number 5 on the keypad. I had completely forgotten that and have been manually resetting my center. Anyway, let's move on. So first we're sitting in here. We've got nothing running. Okay, nothing going on here at all. So what we need to do is we need to start powering up the various systems. So we'll switch on the battery. So I usually switch everything here on. There's a battery. We want the radio. We don't need the IFF. We need the fuel pump. We need the ignition. I'll put the generator on as well. We don't need navigation lights because it's daytime. We don't need heating on the pitot or the windscreen because it's nice temperatures, like 25 degrees or something. We don't need the UV lights on because it's daytime. We don't need the wing drop ordnance because we're not carrying any bombs that we're planning to drop, etc. And we don't need the IFF, landing at sea identification, friend or foe. Here's the radio channels. I'm not sure if we've got. Let's see if we've got the radio. Radio comms. Radio comms. Hey, we do. It looks like we've got the radio comms working there. So if we select F5, select F5, select F1, select F3.
In field 1-1, request startup.
Okay, there we go. So it's just requesting that we start the start up the engine.
1-1, cleared for startup.
Okay, select F12. Select F12. There we go. Oh, it also takes a screenshot. Anyway, moving on. So the first thing, so you don't have to do that if this is the first time you've played DCS and you just happen to have stumbled upon this video. You don't have to request the taxiing and what have you. In fact, I generally don't because I think they're fixing this, but it's all in American accent. So if you're flying an Axis plane, you kind of want the German equivalent, but you don't get it. It sort of breaks the immersion a bit anyway. Moving on. So I've got everything running. Now the first thing we need to do is this duver over here. Now you just need to set this to 12. Now I do this because this is well, set it to 12, and then it's the governor. That's it. And then you click that, and it switches it to automatic, and it switches it around there. That essentially controls the now people are going to jump on me for this because I'm probably going to get it wrong, but controls the sort of the angle that the propeller blades are at, which they vary depending upon the speed that you're going. So if you're going really fast, they'll sort of need to twist a certain direction. They'll rotate. Just base, yeah, that's pretty much it. So the next thing we'll do is we'll switch the magnetos on. We need both of them. Okay, we want the fuel pump on. So that's both of them, P1 and P2. So you can just click there, or you can drag it up if you like. Over here we have the tail wheel lock. I like to switch that on just to begin with. Pitch nose down, trim down just a little bit. And I tend to like to just sort of put the flaps down just a smidgen. I don't know, just for takeoff. Right, so we've got the magnetos on. We've got the fuel pump on, so we've got fuel pumping. We switch the radiator flaps to full open just for taxiing. We'll put those back up once we're up and away. Always load the can. Now this is something that that even I, what am I, like some kind of expert, that I often forgot and only realized that if you've got cannons, the Bf109's got 2 machine guns, and it's got a big stonking nose cannon. That's what this block here is all to do with, and that fires out the nose of the propeller. You have to charge that before you take off. So that's typically for me holding down Alt and spacebar. I don't know if that's the default, but that's what I have for it. Now let's, as you'd taken off, you'd check to make sure that everything's kind of working. I'm going to try and not move my head too much, but anyway, it's going to happen. Make sure that all of the various controls are working. Make sure the rudder pedals. So I've got rudders underneath my desk. They're just a CH product. I've got CH joysticks and rudders and what have you. I know people go down the Thrustmaster path and all of that kind of thing, and they spend many hundreds of thousands of dollars on kit, but CH is alright. It's going. And it's not the cheapest, but it's certainly not the most expensive stuff. So we've got that. Okay, that's good. That's all seems to be working. Now over here, we've switched the magnetos on. We've put the fuel pump on. We've done the governor. Here's a little switch. That's our starter thing. Now what we need to do before we get started is that we need to do a fuel pump. So we'll do that first, and then I'll get them to start charging her up. Now, first thing you do also, you move the throttle forward just a little bit, not too much, just a smidgen. Don't go starting the plane like that, or else you'll just rip your engine apart. So you just put it there. Now, the other thing is feet on the brakes. Brake. You hold your feet on there. Otherwise, that way your aircraft will remain in place as long as you're not doing that. So you're just there. Then we do a fuel pump. Okay, let's do a fuel pump. I usually do about maybe just half a dozen. Okay. Run the starter. Ah, shit. I'm gonna have to do this manually because I already... There we go.
Run the starter. Copy.
Now once they give the all clear, we pull this duver out. And then once the propellers start spinning, we let go. You'll see.
Clear.
Okay, just hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. There we go. She's off. She's running. She's purring away. Now that's kind of like the sort of startup you want. If you push the throttle too far forward and so on, then you'll get this really unpleasant roar as it just goes way too crazy. So subtlety is called for here when you're starting up. Now we just let that run for a couple of seconds. Let the sorry, whilst I jiggle my the headset around, I'm just moving my keyboard here a bit. So we just let that warm up. Now over here, I don't know whether this is gonna zoom in, but here we've got the various temperature gauges. This one here, that's your engine. Then over here we've got yellow. This is your fuel pressure on this side. This is your oil pressure on this side. This is your oil temperature, red. Now, an easy way to remember that is over down in the bottom right, you've got your fuel gauge. Remember that. That's your fuel gauge. It's in yellow. Yellow matches with yellow, so this is your fuel pressure. And the other one is oil, fuel and oil. So this is your oil pressure. Various other dials and gauges here to do with ATA and revs and what have you. So as you throttle up, you'll see this go up, and this also go as well. I'm not going to go into ATA. That's a complicated topic that other people, well, maybe it's not that complicated, but other people can explain that. You'll find that on various. Okay, then over here we've got this is our speedometer. This tells you how many kilometers per hour you're traveling. Here is your altimeter, and this tells you how high you are off the ground. Obviously, this is the horizontal pitch. It tells you if the dial is going up, it means you're climbing. If it's going down, it means you're sinking. Over here is your MH, or the methanol fuel mixture booster dial. So when you've got the where are we? MW50, that's it. The methanol water mix, that gives you a boost, and that will jump up when you do that anyway. Yeah, that's good. So, all right. Well, we've sort of been warming up for a bit now. So let's taxi to the runway now. First thing to think is, keep your throttle nice and easy. And now the trick with this is, okay. So what we'll do is we'll unlock the tail wheel, and then. Now, remember the 109 doesn't have a steering wheel, so you turn by applying the respective brakes. So if you want to turn left, you tap on the left brake. You want to turn right, you tap on the right brake. It's not rocket science. So we just ease off on the brakes there. We accelerate up a little.
Enfield 1-1, clear to taxi to runway 20.
Select F12. Another screenshot, great. Okay, so now as you can see, or maybe not, but I'm just sort of tapping very gently, and I might mess this up, because I'm concentrating on talking as well, but just tap very gently. And whenever you feel yourself getting a little bit, sort of the aircraft escaping from you, just throttle right back. That usually does the trick. But as you can see, I'm just really only very lightly throttling up here, because we are taxiing. The 109 was a famously unstable aircraft on the ground. It would tip at the drop of a hat. Absolutely tip at the drop of a hat. It was a catastrophe. Many pilots came to their untimely end, not in thrilling combat, but by just flipping on the ground. So here we go. We just they would also, when they're taxiing, they tended to sort of zigzag, because you can't see anything in this thing. I mean, look, we've got this huge nose in front of us. So they tended to zigzag to get sort of like a bit of an idea about what was going on as they followed the runway. Okay, we're just coming around here now. Now I'm not a I don't know. You may have seen I've posted some DCS for a few years now. Every now and then, I'm certainly no ace. I'm an okay flyer, but my goodness, if you're watching this to get tips on how to do everything perfectly, then you're in the wrong place. This is just me messing around, showing you how someone does it when they're an okay pilot, but not certainly. They can get up and get back down again and maybe shoot a couple of things every now and then, but certainly not like some of the other hardcore players on the multiplayer servers, which quite honestly, they can be quite intimidating. Because they're often people who play DCS on the multiplayer servers are often actual pilots. So I mean, which I am not. So there we go. So here we are. We're at the runway here. We're going to take off from this one.
Enfield 1-1.
Nope.
Unable to clear for takeoff.
Well, okay. I don't know why, but there's no one else here. So okay, there we go.
You are cleared for takeoff and ready. Climb 300 at QFE
Okay.
29.73.
So I'm just going to bring it to a bit of a stop here, just while we get ourselves sorted out. Now I have relocked the tail wheel, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to pop the brakes on. This is the point that we make sure we close the canopy. Unlike something like a Spitfire, where you could have the canopy open for landing and flying around at low speeds, the 109 you cannot, because as soon as you get airborne, if you had this thing open, it would just rip the damn thing off. In fact, it does. So we're now ready to take off. We'll just do a final check, make sure that all our ailerons and what have you, of course they're going to be fine. I don't have any damage sort of preset into this. You can randomize damage, or not damage, but faults in your plane. So I haven't set that up, but that's all right. So now I'm just going to switch this on to automatic for the that's just the air inlet, basically. Looks like everything's okay. We're ready to take off, I think. So let's do it. So what I do is I just got the brakes on. I just like to throttle up a bit. Now, as I go, with this thing, because of the torque, it'll tend to drift to the left. So you've got to tap the right brake and as you get going. Bear that in mind. It's a tricky thing to keep a hold of. Okay, let's go. Get some... Alright, and let's go. Tapping the right hand brake just to keep us straight on the runway, at least until we get some speed. Okay, that's better, that's good. As soon as the tail wheel goes up, we're pretty much ready to pull back. Gear up straight away. Make sure the flaps are up. Ease off on the throttle. We've got enough speed, we're 250 kilometers an hour, that's fine. Coming up to 300, as you can see just here. Ease right off. Now we adjust the trim. Nose down a bit. As you can see, I'm just adjusting that here. Okay. Now the artificial horizon. Let's open that puppy up, because that's locked when you're on the ground. You have to unlock that once you're up in the air. Weapons check. Switch them on up here. There we go, that's the machine gun, and that's the cannon. Okay. Let's get some altitude. As you can see here, it's pointing up, so we're climbing. And here, we're now at about coming up to 300 meters. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll just do one we won't mess around, we won't do circles and what over and over again above our airfield. We'll make our way to the... Okay, so here's a map. You can bring that up. So we need to head south pretty much. We'll go to the airfield and then head dead south. Basically to there. That's pretty much it. It's not very far away, so we just want to keep the revs not too high. Keep an eye on your temperature. Make sure it stays within the little white triangles. And here we've got the compass in the middle, so that tells us which direction we're facing. Remember, it's German, so O is east for Ost. Now, let's bring her around. We'll go south. So we should be heading south now, and indeed we are. So on the map, you can always put a little cheat mark on. You can you can say where am I now, and it'll update your position on the map. Of course, if you want to fly realistically, you don't do that. You can't do that. Now, remember, from the map we had that canal. Now the canal that we're following is this one just here. So what we're doing is we're following that one all the way to the bay. There we go. Now that we're in fairly steady flight, let's take a look at the outside of the aircraft. Select F2. Oops, let's get rid of the markers. Select F1. Oops. I rarely do that, and I only do it just for instances where I've got nothing else going on and I just feel like having a look at the aeroplane. Just adjusting my trim here. Okay, we've got full nose down on the trim, so that's okay. Select F3. This gives you a nice flyby. Select F1. So according to this, once we get to there, we will fly in a east-northeast across to the forests, which I don't know if, yeah, it's over there. Like I say, this is just going to be a short flight just to refamiliarize with the aircraft and show a few of the various commands. But, you know, ideally, if you're flying either missions in multiplayer or as part of other downloadable campaigns and what have you, you want to become familiar with the map, landmarks, lakes, forests, rivers, creeks, anything which looks a bit odd but different, stands out as a distinctive shape. So now we'll cut around and we'll head back towards the forest, and you use that as your guide to position yourself on the map. You'll notice if you play any of the multiplayer servers, they tend to have specific terminology associated with things. Like there's, I think, the majority of the time the multiplayer servers are on the Normandy map, the old Normandy map, and they'll have things like, they'll refer to things like Big Forest or the P-Trap, which, you know, there's the big forest on the map, or in that case the P-Trap is sort of an inlet which is the shape of a pipe, like a plumbing pipe. So now we're heading in the right direction, east-northeast. Hopefully you're still with me. Hopefully the recording's still working. We'll see. We'll find out at the end. So now we should be flying. Now we want to get to this town here, Cressy and Pontieu, which, if we have a look, I do a little VR zoom in. It's like having a little pair of binoculars. I think that's it just over there. might have a railway there or something. Yep, that would be the black railway that we're just crossing over there on the map. I think that's the town we're heading towards. It's very quick to fly. It's not an airfield, is it? Is it an air? No, it's just the town. So what we're going to do is I'm pretty sure, so we can cheat, we can have a look. Oh, yep, there we go, you see. I just did the little check mark, and it's just to our right, which is that town just down there. What we're going to do is we're going to give the residents of that village a little bit of a thrill. Coming up to 500 kilometers an hour, so it'll be a nice quick flyby. Select F3. Select F1. So is that actually the village that we want? Yes, it is. As you can see, I just did the little check mark and we are pretty much dead on top of it. So now we need to head in a somewhat southerly direction. Because we're so close, we haven't flown very far. We're basically in the vicinity of the airfield. Yeah, what was it? It was like a south-southeast direction. So we're kind of going almost there. We need to go further this way. South-southwest. Approximately that. We will see our airfield in a minute, particularly if we get a bit of altitude. Now a lot of people play with Track IR. This is with VR. So, but Track IR is I don't have it. I've never tried it. But the one thing about the one thing about VR is the immersion. The one thing you lose is resolution. And in a game like this, resolution is really very important. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do sort of a fairly standard textbook landing. Here's hoping. So where we're going to land on, come into this strip here. We're not going to land now. We're just going to fly over it and align ourselves up. So if you do the training missions in DCS, they tell you to fly over the airfield first, or fly over the runway that you're going to land on first. So let's request landing. Radio comms. Select F5. Select F1. Select F1.
Infield 1-1, inbound. Infield 1-1.
Select F1.
Infield 1-1, request landing.
So they'll probably tell me to land on a particular runway on a certain heading, but I'm not going to do that. So we're about just 300 kilometers an hour now, about 200 meters off the ground. So we just flew over the runway. Now we just do a a very gentle turn to face back the other direction. 180 degree. Turn around. There it is. Then we fly parallel back the other direction. This is where we really want to bleed off some speed. Put the flaps down a little bit. Now on the 109, as soon as you put the flaps down, you start getting this alarm. The alarm isn't anything to worry about. The alarm is just there to remind you to put the gear down. Okay, so now we're coming to about 250. Now let's put the gear down. When you put the gear down, you will be nose heavy. So you have to adjust the trim to get yourself back up again. Excuse me if I do a lot of twisty turny stuff here. I'll try and keep it as steady as possible. Oof! We're approaching stall. Get a bit of throttle back up there. Get a bit of a climb. Okay. No, it's just a case of bringing the flaps down a bit more. Keeping that speed between 200 and 250 kilometers an hour. At least this is how I do it anyway. Ease up on the throttle. We can see the runway over there. Using the rudder to try and bring your plane around whilst keeping it fairly steady. Pulling back on the stick as required. Making sure the tail wheel is locked. When you land, you want the tail wheel locked so that it doesn't swivel around, or it reduces the chance of that. Now we're just over 200. We're coming around for the final approach. Now, anyone who knows what they're doing is probably watching me do this and just think, okay, here we go. Runway 20. Well, this is not the runway that we're going to land on that they want us to. Okay, full flaps. Don't know why I don't have full flaps down if I don't. You know, you really want to land it around about 180 kilometers an hour. Just as you approach the runway, you will cut the engines, flare out, and then accelerate just a little bit to keep yourself from... Ooh-cha! Okay. Okay. That was amusing. Okay, don't flip it. Oh my god. My rudders...
Taxi to parking area.
That was hilarious. My rudders underneath my desk here just slipped right out from underneath me and I completely lost control of the aircraft. But by some miracle, she landed. Okay. I think that was partly as well what went wrong there was as I was coming down, I throttled up again and I just completely, just the torque, just over-torqued it or something, I don't know. And then it just completely flipped out. Now that would have been amusing to watch. My goodness. Wonder if that was recorded. It probably recorded anyway. So there we go. That's the land. That was hilarious. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to taxi along here and okay. It's got to be one of the most amusing landings I've ever done. Okay, let's unlock the tail wheel. That's probably the most absurd landing I've ever done and survived. Like that, I cannot begin to imagine how I survived that. Nevertheless, we did. As they say, every landing that you can walk away from is a good landing. So now what I like to do if I'm not in a rush or so, is I do like to do the old, you know, do it properly, taxi, find our way back to a nice little parking spot, take in the scenery. As you can see, I've opened up the canopy here. I think there's a bit of a taxiway approaching just over here, just where that shed is. So well, that's it. That's a takeoff and a amusing landing. Let's be diplomatic about it, or euphemistic. It was an amusing landing. Embarrassing is another word, but the fact I managed to hold it together is, I think, testament to some level of skill. Although that is merely one argument. I would say a bit of luck there as well. Okay, let's go on this little pathway. Now, okay, now because this is a fairly long stretch, I'm going to put the tail wheel lock on, just to increase the probability of us staying on the path. Can't get over that landing. I have no idea how I survived that. I'm not running any cheats or anything that stops me from crashing. That was libel. That's all I can say about that. Is just unbelievable. So let's have a look out, see if we can. There we go. Oh, that's the good thing about VR. You can do that. You can just like lean out of the cockpit, have a bit of a look, just like you were in a real aeroplane. Guess I could go over there. Nah, let's keep going. But honestly, even without the slight loss of resolution, well, reasonable loss of resolution, you could say, the immersion that virtual reality gives you in a game like DCS is it's just glorious. Even to the point where, you know, it's just enjoyable just to fly without engaging any enemies or with any threats. It's just a pleasure. It's another. Gosh, could you imagine the state that my my wheel struts and what have you would be in after that landing? Good God. I might see actually if I can go back and look at a recording from this, and see if I can get a recording of my landing from a third-person perspective. I'll see if I can tack that onto the end of this video, if indeed this video is worth keeping and uploading. Let's go in here. Okay, wheel lock off because we're going to turn. So the wheel lock is for the tail wheel, in case you're wondering, and I didn't explain that before, which was only introduced, I believe, in the later models of the 109s. In the earlier variants, they did not have a tail wheel lock. The thing just swiveled all over the place all the time. So the later variants, they put that in, I think. Okay, let's keep going straight. Put the tail wheel lock back on. Oh, here we go. We'll leave it off actually, because we're just going to turn in here into this little, you know, I don't want to drive around the whole airfield. It's not particularly interesting, particularly if you're watching, and so we just turn in here. We'll park in this little bay here. Gentle tapping on the right brake just to bring us in here. A little bit further. There we go. Okay, that'll do, honestly. And then nice and slowly, always easy on the brake. You don't want to, if you're going too fast and you put the brakes on too hard, you will tip forwards. So just let that. Let's just sit that. Let's just enjoy this this moment where we're alive and haven't crashed. So what we'll do is it's not too hot. I think if you went through the full like shutdown procedure, I think you're supposed to sit and let it cool right off first before shutting it down, but let's not worry about that. Now we'll switch the engine off by engine stop. This lever here, we grab that and bring it all the way forward. There we go, the engine stops. And this kill switch here knocks out the electrics. Switch off the magneto. We can switch all these off. These fuses off as well. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. There you have it. And then flaps are up, I think. Yep, magneto's off. That's that. We can switch the fuel pump off. If you wanted to do it all properly, you could go through the full shutdown procedure of the 109 and do it all by regulation. But I think for the purposes of today, that's enough. Yeah, all right. Well, that's that for the video. I'll review it, and if it doesn't look too catastrophic, I'll package it up and pop it on YouTube. Otherwise, I've just wasted all of my time. Well, I haven't, because I've enjoyed it, but chatting away here will be for naught. Hopefully it did work. Now, all I need to do is just find because I'm in VR, I can't see what the hell I'm doing. There we go. All right, thanks for watching.